I was stirring the creamy mushroom sauce on the stove when I heard his car pull into the driveway. The scent of garlic and rosemary filled the kitchen, a scent I used to think smelled like home. I set the table with his favorite red wine, the one we reserved for anniversaries. My hands were trembling slightly, though I didn't know why. He walked in wearing his navy suit, tie slightly loosened, hair still perfect. Without a word, he sat down, checked his phone, and only looked up when I placed his plate in front of him. "We need to talk," he said, his tone flat, emotionless. My heart froze for a second, but I forced a smile and sat across from him. He didn't touch the food. Instead, he pulled a thick envelope from his briefcase and slid it across the table, grazing my fingertips. "I want a divorce," he whispered, almost too softly to hear. The world blurred. The candles flickered. I felt my lungs burning as I tried to breathe, but I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I didn't even blink. I sat there, staring at the envelope resting on the mahogany table between us. Its edges were crisp and clean, so official, so final. He picked up his wine glass and sipped as if he had just asked me to pass the salt. I watched his throat move as he swallowed, his eyes fixed on the glass, not on me. "It's for the best," he said quietly, not meeting my gaze. The best for whom, I wanted to ask, but the words refused to leave my lips. Instead, I folded the napkin on my lap with trembling fingers, pressing down each crease to stop my hands from shaking. He checked his phone again, replying to a message with a slight smirk on his lips. In that moment, something inside me cracked open. Not with pain, but with a quiet awakening. I realized then that the man I had built my life are. He stood up before finishing his meal. "I'll be staying at the Marriott until things are finalized. My lawyer will be in touch." His voice was casual, like he was reading headlines off his phone. As he walked away, his leather shoes echoed across the cold marble floor, each step slicing through the silence like a blade. I sat there alone, staring at the flickering candles and untouched plates. The smell of rosemary and garlic now made me nauseous. Slowly, I reached for the envelope, feeling its weight in my hands. My reflection in the wine glass looked back at me, a woman I barely recognized, with eyes that seemed too tired to cry. But then, an idea sparked inside me, small and quiet but burning hot. If he wanted to throw away 15 years of marriage like stale bread, he was about to learn that some dinners come with a bill he wasn't expecting. If this story resonates with you, please hit like and subscribe. It helps more people discover these true stories of silent power. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan, listening to its blades cut through the darkness with mechanical indifference. My mind replayed every sacrifice I'd made for him, moving cities so he could take a promotion, working late nights at the firm to pay for his MBA, hosting his colleagues at our house to boost his image. He had always said we were a team, but as dawn crept through the blinds, I realized I had been playing alone the entire time. I got up, showered, and put on my navy blue suit, the one that made my shoulders look strong. As I tied my hair back into a tight bun, I saw a woman in the mirror with eyes that no longer looked tired. They looked sharp, focused, ready. I picked up my leather briefcase and walked out the door. Today, I wasn't going to the office as his wife. I was going as his boss. The office lobby smelled of roasted coffee and polished ambition. I walked in, heels striking the marble floor with silent authority, Everyone greeted me with polite smiles, unaware that today was different. As I stepped into the elevator, I caught a glimpse of myself in its mirrored walls, calm, controlled, unbreakable. When I reached the top floor, my assistant rushed over with the morning reports. "Good morning, Mrs. Ellis," she said softly. I paused and corrected her, my voice low but firm. "Miss Carter today." Her eyes widened slightly, understanding the shift without needing explanation. I walked into my corner office overlooking the city skyline. From this height, the world looked small, manageable. I sat behind my mahogany desk, opened my laptop, and pulled up the HR termination forms. His name glowed on the screen under Senior Financial Analyst. My husband didn't know that the CEO he was divorcing was also the CEO who would decide his future. At exactly 9:15 a.m. he walked into the office, unaware of the storm waiting in silence. He looked surprised to see me already at my desk, his eyes flickering with discomfort before slipping back into indifference. "Morning," he said curtly, not stopping. I watched him walk to his cubicle, shoulders relaxed with the confidence of a man who believed he had won. I spent the morning reviewing his department's performance, noting down every missed deadline, every late submission, every meeting where he arrived unprepared. The facts formed a silent army on my screen. At noon, I called HR. "Schedule a meeting with Jonathan Ellis at 3, I said calmly. My assistant nodded without question. As I ended the call, I glanced at the city skyline and took a deep breath. He had served me divorce papers with cold hands over rosemary chicken. I was about to serve him something colder, but mine came with severance paperwork. At 2:58 p.m., I heard his footsteps approaching the glass conference room. He walked in, glancing around with mild confusion until his eyes landed on me at the head of the table. For a moment, his expression faltered. "What is this about?" he asked, attempting to sound confident, but his voice wavered. I gestured for him to sit. HR entered silently, placing a folder in front of him. I watched as his eyes scanned the header. Termination of employment. His lips parted, forming words that never left his throat. "Your performance has been under review for months," I said evenly. "Missed targets, client complaints, failure to deliver key reports." I paused, letting the truth settle in the heavy silence. He shook his head, eyes darting between me and the HR officer. You can't do this." I tilted my head slightly, a small, calm smile curling on my lips. "I already did." He sat there frozen, his hands gripping the edge of the table so tightly his knuckles turned white. The HR officer continued outlining the severance terms, her voice professional, detached, but his eyes never left mine, wide with disbelief, betrayal flickering beneath his anger. For years, he had thought of me as the woman behind his success, the supportive wife who organized his life, hosted his dinners, ironed his shirts before his meetings. He never saw the power in my silence. As the HR officer finished, she slid the termination forms towards him. His fingers trembled as he picked up the pen, his breath shallow and uneven. For a moment, I almost felt pity. Almost. But then I remembered the envelope he handed me over dinner, the way he didn't even flinch as he ripped my life apart. So I sat there, watching him sign his own ending with the same indifference he showed me. When the meeting ended, he sat there for a few seconds, staring at the table as if it could swallow him and end his humiliation. Slowly, He stood up, gathering his things with trembling hands. The HR officer left quietly, leaving us alone in the glass room overlooking the city. He looked at me, eyes filled with something between rage and desperation. "Why are you doing this?" he whispered, his voice breaking. I closed my laptop softly, stood, and adjusted my suit jacket. I looked him directly in the eyes, feeling a calmness wash over me. "Because you thought I was nothing without you," I said softly, my words slicing through him like silk blades. "But the truth is, you were nothing without me." His lips quivered, searching for words that wouldn't come. I walked past him, leaving him standing there surrounded by the shattered pieces of his own illusion. I walked back to my office feeling the weight lift from my chest with every step. As I closed the door behind me, I stood by the window overlooking the city bathed in late afternoon light. People moved like tiny shadows below, unaware of the quiet war that had ended many floors above them. My phone buzzed with emails and meeting reminders, but I ignored them for a moment. I just stood there breathing in the silence, feeling it fill every broken space inside me. For so long, I thought power meant aggression, loud voices, slammed doors. But true power is silent. It is the strength to rise after betrayal without seeking validation. It is serving justice without screaming for revenge. I sat down at my desk and opened my calendar. I had contracts to sign, board meetings to lead, a company to run. But more importantly, I had a life to rebuild. And this time, it would be mine alone. That evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, casting golden shadows across my office, I finally packed my bag to leave. I walked through the quiet hallways, heels clicking against the marble floors, each step echoing with a confidence I hadn't felt in years. When I reached the lobby, the security guard smiled at me warmly, unaware that today I wasn't just the CEO. Today I was a woman reborn. Outside, the air was cool and smelled of impending rain. I lifted my face to the breeze, feeling it kiss my skin. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't rushing home to prepare his dinner or review his presentations. I was free. As I walked to my car, I remembered his face in that glass room, eyes wide with disbelief. He thought he had ended my life with that envelope. He didn't realize he had handed me the pen to rewrite it. That night, I sat by my apartment window with a cup of chamomile tea, watching the rain tap softly against the glass. My phone buzzed with messages from friends, invitations to dinner, updates from colleagues. But I ignored them all, choosing instead to sit in the quiet. I thought about the woman I used to be, the one who waited anxiously for his car to pull in, who cooked perfect meals, who lowered her voice to keep the peace. I realized she no longer lived here. In her place sat a woman who understood the quiet power of dignity. I didn't need to destroy him with rumors or lawsuits. I didn't need to beg for his love. All I needed was to stand in my truth, silently, unwavering, until his own lies crumbled beneath him. As thunder rumbled in the distance, I whispered to myself, "Let him drown in his storm. I have my peace." The next morning, I woke up before dawn. I stretched under my linen sheets, feeling the softness against my skin, and smiled. For the first time in years, I didn't feel a knot of anxiety in my chest. As I sipped my coffee by the window, watching the first light touch the rooftops, I felt a quiet thrill run through me. Today, the world felt new. At the office, news had already spread about his sudden departure. Some whispered in the hallways, others avoided my gaze, afraid of what I was capable of, but I didn't mind their fear. I walked with my head held high, greeting everyone with calm poise. Power isn't in shouting orders or making threats. True power is walking into a room and feeling the air shift in your presence. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it with silent, unstoppable strength. Later that week, as I walked out of a board meeting, I saw him in the lobby collecting the last of his things. He didn't notice me at first. His shoulders slumped as he shoved files into a cardboard box. His once perfect hair slightly disheveled. For a brief moment, I felt the ghost of old emotions tug at my chest, the woman who used to love him, who believed in his dreams. But that woman was gone, and in her place stood someone who saw reality without illusion. He finally looked up, our eyes locking across the marble floor. There was no anger in his gaze now, only emptiness. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but I turned away before words could ruin the silence. As I walked to my car, the sun broke through the clouds, warming my face. I realized I didn't need his apology. His downfall was enough. That evening, I stood on my apartment balcony, watching the city lights flicker like tiny silent stars. I thought about everything that had happened. The dinner, the envelope, his shocked face across the glass conference table. For so long, I believed revenge meant screaming, fighting, making someone suffer the way they made you suffer. But now I understood. True revenge is silent. It is living your life so fully, so fiercely, that their memory becomes nothing but a whisper in the storm of your triumphs. As the wind brushed my hair back, I closed my eyes and let the night air fill my lungs. I had lost a husband, yes, but I had gained myself, my voice, my power, my freedom. And that, I realized, was a trade I would make again without hesitation. Because sometimes the loudest impact is made in silence. Thank you for watching until the end. If you've ever lived through something similar, share your story in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, because sometimes the loudest impact is made in silence.